Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here. And in this video, I want to give you a property market update for May 2023. I'm going to be talking about the interest rate crisis. I'm going to be talking about 100% mortgages and the impact all of this has on you and your property investing. Probably the most important thing is the fact that the Bank of England have just decided to put up interest rates, the base rate, to 4.5%. What's the effect going to be on you and the property market in general? Now, first of all, I want to apologize. I'm actually in a hotel at the moment. I'm doing my 3-day mastermind accelerator training. So in my hotel room, the lighting on this video is not great, but I really wanted to shoot this as soon as possible. They just made the announcement how the interest rates going up. And this is really important you understand the impact that's going to have on you and the property market. I've been investing in property since 1995. I became financially independent and left my full-time job at Cadbury's in 2001. And since 2003, so for 20 years, I've been teaching people like you how to be successful property investors. And obviously back in the last property market crash in 2008, a lot of people were panicking and running for the hills and they were getting rid of properties. But actually, it was a great time to be investing as long as you knew what you were doing. Now, with all the doom and gloom happening in the property market right now, you might think, oh, I don't know if it's a good time to be investing. But actually, like 2008, if you know what you're doing, now is a great time, but you must be using the correct strategies. And I'm going to share with you later in this video what I think are the great strategies you should be using for the current market conditions. But first of all, let's talk about this interest rate crisis, which we're facing right now. So on the 11th of May, the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee decided to raise interest rates by 1/4 point up to 4.5%. Now, this is the highest they've been since 2008. You know, we had a whole decade of interest rates being 0.5%. So what this means is many buy-to-let landlords were making really good money on their single-let properties because interest rates were so low. Now, in 2022, interest rates started to go up. This is actually the 12th consecutive rise of interest rates. And what it means is many landlords who are on variable mortgages, and they stayed on variable mortgages because their payments were so low, those people are going to be having a situation where now many of them are going to be paying more interest every single month than they are bringing in rental income. Now, it depends how long those landlords are going to be able to continue to do that. Now, most landlords have a variety of mortgages. Some might be variable, some might be fixed. And if you have a fixed rate mortgage, the interest rate changes don't really cause a problem until you come to the end of that fixed rate. Now, statistics show in the UK, there are 1.3 million households who are currently on fixed rate mortgages that come to an end during 2023. So in other words, many people who might be on interest rates as low as 1 or 2%, when they come to the end of their fixed rate period, sometime in 2023, their interest rate could triple or even quadruple. So in other words, some people might go from paying 1% up to 5, 6, even 7% interest on their mortgage, depending on what package they're on. So this is going to be a major problem, and many people, many households are really going to struggle to pay their mortgage in addition to the rising costs. Now, the reason the interest rates have gone up again is because, unfortunately, in the UK, the inflation rate is still at double digits, still over 10%. And many people expected interest rates to come down. The Bank of England target is to get interest rates down to 2%. Now, they suggest that's definitely not going to happen until sometime in 2024. So interest rates, although most people expected them to come down as inflation comes down, are going to stay where they are for the moment until the inflation starts to come down. Now, the reason the Bank of England used interest rates as a macroeconomic tool is because by increasing interest rates, it makes it more expensive for businesses to borrow. Now, what that means is the economy, slows down and calms down a little bit. People spend less money. And what that means is that, inflation will slowly start to come down. So the policy has worked previously where you increase interest rates to slow the economy down, but it's not working right now. And one of the main reasons it's not working is because the very high inflation of food prices. Now, food prices have gone up. Fuel prices are still high, although that should come down soon as well. So all of this is combining to this position where really the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee don't really have much choice but to put interest rates up. 7 out of the 9 people on the committee voted for this interest rate rise. The 2 who didn't said, actually, we haven't seen if the last rise has had much of effect yet, but the majority of the committee voted to put rates up. So what this means is you're going to have even more landlords who on variable rates, who are not making money on their properties, might consider selling some of their properties. And there have been more landlords selling properties in the last year than ever before. And I think that's partly not just to the interest rates, but also the changing legislation, the government in England, in Wales and Scotland bringing more and more regulation in. They're making it harder and harder for landlords. Landlords seem to be public enemy number one. And I don't really know why that happens. I think many political parties do that to try and get votes. But actually, if there weren't private landlords like us in the market, that would be a massive problem. This has happened in Scotland. They've seen where they've introduced rent controls, they've introduced eviction bans. And what this means is lots of landlords are saying, you know what? I don't know if it's such a good thing being a landlord anymore. So rather than helping tenants in Scotland, what's happened is actually more and more landlords are selling their properties, which is reducing the supply of property available, which means the rents are going up. Rents in the UK, all over the UK, have shot up over the last year or so. So unfortunately, governments and local governments, they put policies in place because they think it's a smart thing to do, and maybe there are good intentions behind those policies, but ultimately they end up backfiring and causing problems. Look at Article 4, for example. So Article 4 is where the local government, the local councils can remove permitted development rights. So in most areas, you could take a normal house, which is a C3 planning classification, and you can turn it into a C4 planning classification, which is an HMO under permitted development. That is, unless the local council have decided there are too many HMOs, so they enforce the Article 4 direction, which removes those particular permitted development rights. What that means is in an Article 4 area, if you want to take a normal house, turn it into an HMO, you need to apply for planning permission. Now, most councils will automatically reject it. You might win on appeal if it meets the criteria, but what it means is it restricts the supply of HMOs. Now, what happens is when the local councils bring this in, they have to give a notice period. And when local investors realize this is happening, they all rush into the area to buy properties to turn into HMOs before Article 4 is enforced. So it actually has the opposite effect to the intended policy of restricting the number of HMOs. It actually increases the supply of HMOs. So this is the problem when, unfortunately, policymakers and politicians who really don't understand property bring policies in for the good, for the best intention, but they often backfire. I'm not sure what else the monetary policy of the Bank of England can do other than raise interest rates to control inflation. But mark my words, there are going to be repercussions of this. I think we're going to see many of the 1.3 million householders who are really going to struggle financially. Many of them may not be able to afford their mortgage. They might have to put those properties on the market for sale. Now, when we have a declining property, I think in April was the first time we saw a slight blip in property prices go up again. But the last 6 months before that, property prices were coming down. I predict we're going to see property prices come down further in 2023 and maybe into 2024. Are we going to see a property market crash in 2023? I don't think we are. It's not going to be like happened in 2008. However, there are property owners and landlords who remember the crash back in 2008. They might be fearful that property prices could come down 20, 30%. And that means those particular landlords that are selling properties might be far more open to a reduced offer on their property because they just want to get rid of the property now before they fear that property prices could crash. So all of this means that I think we're going to see property prices come down further. Also, if you're looking to buy properties with interest rates having just gone up, it's going to be very difficult to be able to get mortgages on single-let, buy-to-let properties. The only strategy you should be looking at in the current market, in my opinion, are high cash generating strategies such as houses of multiple occupation and serviced accommodation. Now, as you probably know, right now, the UK, or the English government, is in consultation about bringing regulations in to serviced accommodation. Now, I think that's a good thing. I think when you have regulation and guidelines, people provide accommodation at a certain standard. And at the moment, in England, the service accommodation and short-term rental market is a bit like the wild, wild west. There was no regulations, a lot of people doing it well, a lot of people doing it not very well. So I think regulation is good coming in, but they're going to have a register of everyone who's got holiday lets. I'm sure there's going to be licensing, which, by the way, the local councils will use as a way of raising revenue, although they're not supposed to do that. They absolutely will. There'll be increased safety requirements coming, which I think are a good thing, probably more in line with the requirements in HMOs. The thing I love about HMOs is they're a very stable income coming in, a high cash flow of at least £1,000 a month, whereas SA, service accommodation, can be higher than that, but also it can be lower. There's a big fluctuation in SA. And with HMOs, you know where you are with regulation. It's highly regulated. It's unlikely to change very much going forward. So you know exactly where you stand. That's why in this current market, my preferred strategy is houses of multiple occupation. And also in tough times when people have to pull their belts in financially, sometimes living on your own in a studio or apartment where you're not only paying rent, you're also paying all the bills as well, is very expensive. Whereas moving into a shared house, actually, it's far more cost effective than living on your own. And also you might actually get better facilities. And although you have to share some of those facilities, they might be better quality. So there's an increased demand for HMOs. However, and listen very carefully to this, if you're going to do HMOs, please, please do not do average HMOs, which is what most people do. There is an oversupply of average HMOs in most areas. So if you're going to do HMOs, you need to do what we call high-end co-living HMOs. And the difference is, imagine this, if you rent a room in a house, that's an HMO. But if you buy into a community of like-minded people living in a house together, that's co-living. That's where people live more as a community. They sometimes shop and cook together, and they don't want to leave. And if you have a really good quality property, you get higher rents than the average market. Some of our clients are getting 20 to 30% higher than average HMOs in the area. That's why you need to be doing high-end HMOs if you're doing HMOs at all. So I hope this has been useful. I do apologize, say, for the lighting. It's not great in my hotel room here, but I wanted to get this out as soon as possible. You need to understand about the impact of these rising interest rates and this new 4.5%, which I think is going to cause this interest rate crisis. I think we're going to see later this year, many people defaulting on their mortgages, unfortunately, having to sell those properties. I think repossessions are going to go up. It's going to be carnage. I feel sorry for those people, but as investors, it's an opportunity for us to come and help those people get rid of the properties they cannot afford, pick up some great deals, rent them out in a more productive way, HMO, service accommodation, subject to regulations, of course, and actually provide good quality accommodation that is much needed in the UK. So I hope that's been useful. I actually have some training all about HMOs. We were going to sell this training for £197. It's a 3-video mini course about HMOs, but actually because of the current crisis, we're going to give it away. So if you want to access that complimentary 3-video training, and also there's going to be a live webinar where you can ask me questions all about HMOs, all you have to do is click on the link somewhere around this video. There'll be a link to come and register and get that training. We're going to be releasing it next week. So come and register for that. I really highly recommend, if you've not done HMOs yet, or you've got HMOs that are not making at least £1,000 profit, you need to watch this training, find out what you're doing wrong. And generally it's because you're not doing a high-end HMO, which is what you absolutely should be doing. So come and register that training. If you found this video useful, or you agree or disagree with some of the things I've said, please comment below. I'll come and answer as many of those as I can. And obviously, please like the video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon. These videos are timely videos that come out. You want to make sure you're watching them as soon as they come out to see what you need to do. So make sure you hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified whenever these videos come out. As ever, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill, and I'm sure my team have lined up another video for you to watch that's going to be relevant to what's happening in the property market right now. So thanks for watching, and guys, take action. Although it's a scary time to invest, if you know what you're doing, this is going to be one of the best buying opportunities of this decade. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I do hope you got massive value from watching this YouTube video. I'd encourage you to click on the link below to come and do the online training with me. And I've got another video lined up for you, which I think is also going to be really useful, that you should watch once you've registered for the online training with me. So invest with knowledge, invest with skill. I'll see you very soon.